We have the Chief Executive Officer of the Center for the Promotion of Private Enterprises, Dr. Muda Yusuf, joining us. Dr. Yusuf, good morning.
Good morning.
How long was this wait? Was it a lot of people, as you heard there, you know, in Alaba International Trade Fair? Even after the result had started being collated, there was a lot of uncertainty, there was tension, especially here in Lagos, because of the tribal sentiment thing, unfortunately, which we seem not to be able to dispose of, you know, but are things back to normal now? Have you noticed?
I think things are gradually getting back to normal. And we must also commend the key players in the political space. You know, they appeal to their supporters, you know, to eschew any form of violence, protest, ethnic attacks, and things like that. So generally, I think things are getting back to normal. And I must also commend even other players in the political space.
Yeah, like yesterday we had the Labour Party come out, even though the day before it had been tense and, you know, anger. Yesterday we had the vice presidential candidates come to speak to Nigerians and say, oh, please, let's embrace peace. We can head to court and things like that.
Exactly, because we need that peace. Everybody needs the peace. Whether you win or you lose, everybody needs the peace. So we must commend the maturity that has been displayed by the major players in the political space to ensure that we have calm, we have peace, and to also promote the ideas of approaching things constitutionally, you know, and seeking redress through legal means. I think that is what we need at this time, because the economy cannot afford any major disruption.
I mean, remember the disruption we had with the cash just before the election, and how much the country was losing, and the perception of investors. You know, the foreign investors were just trying to attract, you know, a lot of discouragement coming from there.
Even locally, many small businesses are already groaning that they have been off business for a long time, you know, coming from the currency crisis to the election,
to the
petrol crisis, then what looked like a shutdown for the election, you know, is beginning to take a toll on many businesses, especially the SMEs.
Except the equities, Dr. Yusuf. I don't know if you follow the equities. I mean, it was really booming. It was just yesterday that we had maybe profit taking, but I mean, we had more than 55%, 0.5%, 0.5% positive for the first day. That was on Monday. For Tuesday, the market was up again. It was just yesterday there was a pullback, you know, which could easily be, you know, termed profit taking. I don't know. Is it investors were running there to hide or what?
No. It's a question of expectation. What I think is happening is that there are some positive expectations as a result of this outcome, that things are likely to change for the better, that some policy issues are likely to also change, which may impact on the general outlook of the economy. Because, you know, the market is to a large extent speculative, and some of these things are driven by expectations. So if there are positive expectations, you expect that kind of development in the market, and that is the way it is all over the world. Markets react to, you know, things that are developing. If they are positive, you will see some positive impact.
All right, Dr. Yusuf. Now let's look at the task ahead for the incoming president and his team. But he's the head of the team, so it's him. So we see inflation at this time is in one of the records, 21.82. We have soaring food prices. We have our naira that has weakened, you know, and hit worse, you know, by, you know, some of the policies that we've had at this time. We have the issue of debts, which which is projected to hit 77 trillion by the time he's coming in May, you know. And then if we go further, we have the issue of subsidy also on the plate. We have insecurity. We have agricultural production, which has dropped. We have the trade sector. You know, it's a whole lot for Senator Tinubu to handle.
It is.
And he has to do this because when one of our analysts during our election studio analyzed the win, you could see that it seemed like you had more people in the opposition. For instance, the second and the third, if you added their number together, it gives you higher votes than, So, each of the top 3 candidates won 12 states, showing a split of preferences. So I guess his first assignment to grow the economy would be to win the opposition over, or at least Nigerians who are in the camp of the opposition, before he can really move forward, or sets a very profitable step or beneficial step.
Yes, that is very important, and that speaks to the legitimacy of a government. It's not enough for you to win an election. It is also very important for you to achieve legitimacy. And when you look at the structure of this election, it has been one of the most competitive that we have seen in recent times. So it makes a lot of sense to aspire to build a system that is inclusive. Because even if you look at the voter turnout, if you compare the PVCs collected, in Lagos, for instance, was, I think, around 6 trillion. I mean, 6 million.
We pray one day.
6 million, and the total number of people that voted was, I think, just about 1 million or less than 2 million. You can see even when you compare that. So there's a major task of seeking legitimacy through reaching out to the other competing parties after all this dust has settled, because the dust has not fully settled. And also making sure that we bring all Nigerians on board. We give all Nigerians a sense of belonging, irrespective of which parties they voted for, irrespective of their religion, irrespective of their ethnic nationalities or whatever. We need to ensure that we make a policy that gives everybody a sense of belonging, and also that actually restores hope. Because when things begin to function well, when the economy begins to perform optimally, people will forget about all this polarization, dichotomy, and all of that. So that is why it is very important for the president-elect. First of all, by now, I expect him to have been assembling a transition team on the economy, so that engagement can quickly begin. And it is very important to stress the importance of quality economic governance. Because you realize from statistics which are very disturbing. But if we had quality economic governance, yes, there may be challenges, but the challenges will not be as bad as that. And that starts from building a very good economic team. That is very important, to ensure that we have a level playing field, to ensure that we move this economy from a patronage economy or a rent-seeking economy to an economy that actually encourages and incentivizes entrepreneurship, enterprise, and all
just
of that.
Before you go on, yes, if this is not achieved, if bringing, especially those on the opposition and all of that, those sentiments, and bringing if it is not achieved, what does the economy stand to lose?
No, because you can't build something on nothing. If you have a politically unstable environment, it is very difficult to grow the economy. It's very difficult to attract investment. And if you don't have investment, you can't grow the economy. If you don't grow the economy, you cannot ease poverty. You can't create jobs. You can't generate revenue. So a lot depends on how stable the political environment is. So it is very important that all the key players seek to achieve that stability in the environment, to ensure that we have legitimacy beyond just the fact that somebody has won the election. There must be that legitimacy of acceptability of what the outcome is, and there should be a consensus that we have to move on. Because this is the only country we have, just as the president-elect said. So we need to make sure that we don't have a crisis that will disrupt everything. Because if you have that kind of crisis, this economy
then
cannot
everybody's
move.
stuck.
Everybody will
It doesn't matter what sector.
Yes, yes. It's like,
stuck.
A roof, dropping on everybody. Mm-hmm. So it doesn't serve the interest of anybody for this system to be disrupted as a result of this election.
It's very, very important.
Yes,
and that's why, I mean, we were really glad when we saw Labour Party come out to calm the nerves, you know, because we saw some protests in different parts of the country, you know. So that, I believe, will calm nerves, and then everybody can go to court and try to, you know, air their... But you talked about assembling a quality economic team. I don't think Nigeria lacks the brains or the human resources. If you talk about economic team, we've seen it done before, but it always seemed like it's more about the intentions or the spirit behind it. So sometimes we even do have the economic teams that when you look at the resume of the individuals, it is very impressive. When you see the policies, they are very impressive, but implementation now becomes another story. So what can the incoming president, Senator Bola Ahmed Tinubu, what can he do differently, you think?
What needs to change is the fact that when you have an economic team that is independent, that is very professional, that doesn't owe allegiance to any particular segments or constituencies in the country or in the economy, the president has a duty to listen to them. Because just as you said, it is not for lack of an economic team. It's not for lack of people with competence in government. What is missing is when they give, because economic team is advisory. They can only advise the president. So if the president listens to them, I think a lot will change. And if there's also sufficient inclusion in the policy process, sufficient consultation, because nobody knows it all. If an agency of government walks up to the president and comes with a proposal that has significant systemic effect for the entire economy, it behoves on the president to invite his economic team to examine and interrogate whatever proposals have been brought together. We also have the National Economic Council. We have the Federal Executive Council. So there has to be a much more participatory process to ensure that we have the right kind of policies and implementation. And it is also important that we have proper and more robust stakeholder engagement, because it is the stakeholders that are actually on the ground. Whatever policies we are putting in place, it is not out of place to involve the stakeholders in the conceptualization and in the implementation, so that the policy process can be a lot more enriched. So all of these things are very important, and these are some of the missing links that we are seeing. For instance, I mean, take the issue of this currency thing. It was practically something between the central bank governor and the president. I'm not sure other stakeholders were carried along.
Because this is without prejudice. Yes, that she was not aware.
She was not aware. You know, even without, this is without prejudice to the autonomy of the central bank. But the point is that no autonomy or independence is absolute, because we all have a common goal to advance the welfare of the majority of the citizens. So nothing is lost. Autonomy is not lost. Independence is not lost if we seek the views on or the perspectives of other people. The president has an economic advisor. I'm not sure in many of these things he was even consulted, because he's a very brilliant and very sound economic professional. So these things are key.
All right, so when we talk about that economic team, you did say that it should be people without political allegiance. I don't know how possible that would be, but do you see them, maybe people running, maybe manufacturing, people in the private sector, people... Sometimes we've seen some presidents fish for human resources abroad. I mean, some names of ministers in the past, were brought in from outside the country. Maybe those who are doing well in ECOWAS, you know, all of those WTO and World Bank. Do you think that will be the thing now, or do we take people who are close to the grassroots, know exactly what's going on here? Which one do you think will work better for us at this stage?
It's a combination of all of these things that you have mentioned. If you are dealing with macroeconomic policies, something that impacts all sectors of the economy, the welfare, the different sectors of the economy. There are policy formulation processes that you can support from economic theory, that you can support from empirical evidence, that you can support from global best practices. You need people with that knowledge to be able to come up with that kind of policies. Things like the foreign exchange policy, for instance. There are standards that work everywhere. Economics is a science, even though it is a social science. It's a social science because there's a lot of human elements.
Peculiarities for the different environments.
But it's a science because you can predict outcomes. That is why it's a science. So you need people at that level to deal with macroeconomic policies. Then when it comes to sector-specific policies, then you need to engage the stakeholders. If you are talking of oil and gas, for instance, of course you already have the PIA. And the PIA had a lot of input from stakeholders. So if you are doing anything in that space, it makes sense to relate to the stakeholders. Not just to favor one or two people, but relate to stakeholders in a way that you have a level playing field. If you are talking of manufacturing, you have to relate with those who are in the manufacturing. It's not as if everything they put on the table you will accept, because there's also elements of self-interest and things like that. But a good policymaker should be able to, distill some of these things and know what is good for the overall economy. Because we cannot be running an economy where the stakeholders are completely disconnected from the policy-making process. There is no feedback mechanism. There's just a conceptualization of one or two people that this is the way to go. And the whole country is thrown into it. We saw that with the currency problem. We saw that with the border closure. We saw that with even this foreign exchange policy. Because it's one of the major things that this new president has to quickly address. A number of reforms that are very critical to moving this economy forward. Because I must emphasize, if you don't fix the economy, you cannot address all these other issues. Because you need a robust economy to generate revenue. You need a robust economy to grow the economy. You need a robust economy to create jobs, to alleviate poverty. All of these things are very critical. And undertaking these critical reforms, foreign exchange, our monetary policy, the customs, the tax situation, the trade policy, trade facilitation, subsidy, oil and gas, the Nigerian customs. There are so many things, even regulatory environment.
Obviously.
So there are a whole lot of issues that this president needs to quickly begin to add. And in some of these things, there are quick wins that you can quickly deliver to deepen the legitimacy of the administration.
And win the hearts of Nigerians.
Exactly.
I mean, that could also be another way to close that opposition gap and get people to believe in the administration and all
there
that.
are quick wins that the administration should quickly look at and make sure that we implement that so that the citizens, you endear yourself to the citizens. Those things are critical.
Well, obviously, the president-elect has a whole lot to deal with. And as you said, we do hope at this time, after resting maybe a day or two from the campaigns and all of that, it gets to, that setting up the economic team and the transition first, and of course
very critical,
the economic team. Well, we'll be following the story, and you know us here in Channels. We'll follow whoever and bring the story and bring perspective. We didn't get to talk about, how he could achieve that knowledge-based economy because we're out of time, unfortunately.
No, he has a robust something on digital economy and all of that. All this is, but again, there's a difference between the manifesto and the reality. That's a whole lot of difference.
Yes. All right, Dr. Muda Yusuf, Chief Executive Officer of Center for the Promotion of Private Enterprise. Thank you so much for your time this morning.
Thank you.
So it's a new dawn for Nigeria, even though it doesn't start until May 29, but we'll keep setting the agenda and keeping up that conversation. Let's take a break now. When we come back, we'll head to the commodity space. To stay with us. This is Business Morning. We're back. It's on Channels Television.